I went out on client meetings when I was 15 and I could comfortably walk around a warehouse and talk to the directors there. When I did look for my other move in recruitment, there was quite a bit, and I would say actually more from the larger recruitment agencies of, okay, well, you're only this old and
So
you've not
disappointing.
really got the life experience. And that's without having a conversation with me or anything like that.
I'm delighted to welcome to you today my wonderful community, Chloe Marsh, who has a gorgeous story to share about how she has, over 8 years, built her career in one company to become the managing director. She works for a company called Get Recruited, who are based in the city centre of Manchester, and they work across a number of different vertical markets. And we actually got really quite personal in her journey because she started in the recruitment industry at 15 years of age. And actually, it's something that I normally talk about from the other side of the coin in terms of age discrimination. And we do talk about it from, as a young person, the sort of age discrimination that she has faced and that maybe you have faced. Maybe it's something that we need to talk about much more prominently, given that we are the educators, guys. We also talk around how she had to change her mindset as she moved into that very strategic managing director role, how she manages to balance all the different hats that she wears on a daily basis. And then, you know, the reality is, as you're listening to this now, hopefully by the time it goes out, maybe things will have settled, but the market is extremely challenging in 2026. So how has she adapted and how has she ensured she's created a culture that feels safe? I think you're going to love Chloe as much as we do. Let's get going. This is Lysha Holmes and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And I'm so excited for you to get to know this week's guest, not least because my colleague Shannon and I have got to know this lady very well in our day job as Key Recruitment. We've been partnering this business, and I think getting to know her in real life, I think you should all know her story. It's very inspirational, and I think, you know, one of those very rare people that has been loyal and has been promoted and has been exceptional in her job and is now managing director. So without further ado, this is Chloe Marsh, who is the managing director of Get Recruited and marathon runner. I have to get that in.
Thank you very much. Yeah, how long before that's not something I can lead by, but for now, yeah, for now, for sure. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Hey, listen, as someone who is a retired, I had a whole year of a running career. I think we spoke many times
Yeah,
about
quite a
it.
brutal one in the
We
end,
did.
yeah.
But you are somebody that you've done 3 peaks. You're obviously somebody who really takes their physical and mental well-being very seriously. So I'm sure we'll explore that a little bit. So, Chloe, I want to know, and I want the audience to know all about your amazing rise to becoming managing director of Get Recruited. So how did it all start? Start at the beginning.
Well, it all started, funnily enough, I think, you know, probably 90% of people that you ask that question to are the same, but I really did fall into recruitment. So I finished school for the summer holidays. My uncle ran a recruitment agency. I had no idea what that meant at the time, but I really needed a job. And part of my question was more of a, you know, could they find me a job? But it turned out they had a job for me. So I went in and very innocently at 15 walked into an industrial temp recruitment business to start as an administrator, and started right at the bottom of ringing candidates for their availability, working from a filing cabinet of registration packs. And by the end of the summer, I was in a full recruitment role, and I didn't want to go to college. So
Oh, I didn't know this. This is brilliant.
yeah, so I decided to work part-time for them still while going to college. So my timetable was quite fortunate in that I had one lesson on a Wednesday, so I was able to do nearly a full day's work on a Wednesday, and there were quite a few half days in there. And the nature of temp recruitment is really, as long as you've got your phone and your list of candidates, you can kind of do it anywhere, and it's really on call anyway. So I did a lot of our night bookings, and really enjoyed it, and stayed there for a good few years, really, until I made the call to move into commercial and perm recruitment. I really enjoyed temp. I love the fast nature of it. It really suits my personality to be quickly moving, and every day looks very much different. But really, I wanted to make a bit more money out of it by the time I'd done 4 years there. So went to another agency, was trained really well around commercial and perm recruitment, and had a really good few years there. And then the opportunity with Get Recruited came up, and it was more of a a nationwide opportunity, which at the time I'd not explored before, but it sounded like it opened up a lot more doors for, again, money, but also for career prospects as well, because I was at that sort of near a year point of,
Right.
I would like a long-term career somewhere, and it sounded like Get Recruited were the place to facilitate that. And 8 years later, I can confidently say it definitely was. Yeah. And it's been a strange one that feels like it's gone so quickly, and it's been nowhere near 8 years, but at the same time feels like I've always been here,
Yeah.
which is really lovely. And I'm really proud of the team and the business that we've built over that time. It's certainly not been a linear journey for us as a business. We've had quite a few challenging times through that 8-year period, and we've seen a lot of competitors go, and I'm really proud that we've weathered multiple storms as a team and as a business. So yeah, I suppose over the 8 years I've taken 5 progressional steps up until September last year, when stepped into the MD role, and Matt stepped up to CEO.
That's amazing. We will come back to this bit, the MD and role, and what that actually means day to day. I was absolutely covered in goosebumps when you just said that then about the weathering the storm, and you've seen other people, unfortunately fall by the wayside. And I've been doing recruitment for a very, very long time. I dare hasten to add, probably as long as you've been alive, 27 years and counting. And I've never seen so many companies fold.
It's really sad.
It's really sad. So I just want anyone listening that maybe has had to go through that process, whether it's liquidation, whether you're in sort of compulsory, or any stage where your business is under threat. Our hearts genuinely do go out to you, and there's always a message away or a phone call away if anyone wants any support, emotional support. So thank you for being so compassionate, Chloe, and your story first and foremost. So by the time you moved to your second recruitment job, you were only 20.
Yeah, so
you've already had 4 years.
Yeah, I was I don't even think I was 20 when I moved to the second role. And it was interesting when I did look to leave my first recruitment role, I'd almost not really considered how young I was compared to a lot of people
did you face discrimination? Like, did people
I did it when I started to look for my second recruitment role more so. Interestingly, I think because I went really far in the deep end with my first role, I sort of proved myself, and that was how I took more on, and not just in the business but with clients as well. I went out on client meetings when I was 15, and I could comfortably walk around a warehouse and talk to the directors there, and I ran inductions for 80 warehouse temps that were being shown the health and safety warehouse.
Wow.
It didn't really occur to me that there was, obviously I knew I was a lot younger than anyone else in the team, but I knew I wasn't doing anything differently. So it didn't really occur to me that it would be an issue or a consideration for people. And then, sadly, when I did look for my other move in recruitment, there was quite a bit, and I would say actually more from the larger recruitment agencies of, okay, well, you're only this old, and
so disappointing.
Really got maybe the life experience, and that's without having a conversation with me or anything like that. And there was always a sort of visual reaction of, oh wow, okay, you're quite young for the experience that you've got. How have you got that many years recruitment experience?
And it started when I was 15.
Certainly a lot more of a grilling around that, and it's something that I'm still quite passionate about. It doesn't matter how old you are, how many years experience you've got, or anything like that. The way that you behave and conduct yourself, I don't think is remotely related to life experience or experience a lot of the time. So
we're molded by life, aren't we? But at the same time, I think that to hear that you experienced firsthand age discrimination, when as an industry we're supposed to be the educators, we're supposed to lead by example. First of all, I'm really embarrassed by whoever those companies were, and shame on them. And I really hope that they've learned their lesson and they've had some education since then. But bravo.
They headhunt me 2 years after one.
I was just about to say, bravo to you.
The parameter for age that they deemed acceptable.
I just found it absurd that in this day and age where there's meant to be this whole ethos around diversity and looking at someone's transferable skills and what someone brings, that they're not looking at your date of birth, they're looking at the fact that you had 4 years recruitment experience. It shouldn't matter whether you were 20 or 19 or 59. It doesn't matter, you're still applicable to the business. And I know that sometimes there's an argument around culture and would somebody who is 59 want to work with a load of 19-year-olds? Well, actually, if those 19-year-olds are all really good fun and it's something that's good, why not? I think that you are a huge advert for me now of why, as an industry, we have got to look beyond that. And we're still really bad at it, Chloe. That's the truth. And I still face it. But from the other side, I tend to face it with people coming to the end of their careers, maybe because that's my peer group, because I'm in my 50s. But well done to you for almost proving them all wrong and sticking up 2 fingers. And when they headhunted you, you were like, no thanks.
Oh, it was a funny one. But I mean, even in my first recruitment job, our team, the sort of core team that was there through that period, it was me and it was a lady in her 50s. And that was from when I was 15, and we worked together,
Brilliantly.
so brilliantly. And I don't think either of us really considered much more past the odd joke that I was younger than a daughter. And
exactly. Or when a song comes on and because this has happened to me and Shannon loads. Song comes on and I'll go, I love this song, and she'll go, yeah, I like the song. Oh, and I'll go, I remember when this came out, and she'll go, it's before I was born. And I go, okay, thanks for that reminder. That's about the only time. Because you're learning from other people, and it's proven that multi-generational relationships create the best cultures. Not then replace. It's not just then this, I don't know, echo chamber of everybody.
Definitely. I think that transcends across more than just business as well. I was chatting to a friend of mine yesterday. We play football together. She goes to church every Sunday, and she's just moved house. So she's in a sort of completely different area, chatting about how she's settling in, and she's trying to find a new church to go to every week. And she's been to a few, and they're all quite, I mean, she's in her early 30s, but she said they're all quite young congregations. And I know that's my age group, but I really want something that's mixed, because I think there's so much that we can learn from the older generations. I don't want to just exclude myself from that. And I think there is something for everyone to learn from.
Definitely. I learned so much from Shannon. I learned so much when my daughter works with me. Obviously, she's now in real estate. She was with the business for 15 months. And she started work at 14. When she came into recruitment at 16, people would often go, wow, but they would actually think she was older because of the way she conducted herself. And I can just imagine 15-year-old you. And you're there with your, I don't know, do you have your hard hat on and you had your notepad and everything?
The high vis and everything. Yeah, it was great.
It was amazing. And the thing is that it's just so absurd. Like, we're in a world where I don't know if they'll become obsolete, but at some point universities might become so unaffordable to run that I just think, and obviously with AI transforming how people learn, who knows? I'm not going to get my crystal ball out. But what I do know is that it's prohibitive for a lot of people because of cost, not because of educationally. And I just think, I'd like to think the narrative's changed around we must employ graduates. But if I had 2 people sat in front of me to come and work for me, one was a 20-year-old that was just graduating, and one was a 20-year-old that had been working in the industry.
Well, I have the conversation with clients quite often, and I used to do it a lot more, I suppose, before I'd progressed to a senior level. You could really not teach them a lesson, but sometimes I'd say, well, you would not hire me then, because I've not got that degree, but I've got all of this experience. So you would rule somebody out like me in your sector. And it does give them a bit of oh, you've not been to university, but you can have a conversation. We didn't realize that happened. And I think sometimes if you've had that stipulation through hiring, you've not had the exposure to candidates that haven't had it, then you don't realize there's actually not that much that they probably miss, as long as you're not hiring a doctor.
Exactly.
You've been to uni, but a lot of them have got the social skills that come with the jobs that they've held through that period. So
you preach to the converted, Chloe. So
yes, I can imagine.
So I asked you, I'm going to unpin where we pause, which is you. So 2025, you moved into the role of MD, and obviously then Matthew, who's the founder of the business, he moved into a CEO role. So why did this happen? Like, from a strategy point of view, why did it happen? And then talk to me about your your personal journey of your mindset and how you had to shift from being, I guess, with a peer group to becoming the managing director.
Yeah, for sure. So from a strategic point of view, I suppose Matt and I have worked really closely together on the running of the business, probably since COVID, really. When we obviously had a couple of us on furlough, it was myself and Matt and two of us, other colleagues that worked through that period. So we really revamped the whole business, and that was great. It worked really well. But what we found was, I suppose we were duplicating a lot of work. You know, sometimes there's two people in a meeting where it only needs one of us, but you would always feel a little bit like we should include the other. So I'm not taking a decision without you, but we actually don't both need to be round that table all the time. And obviously, from a strategic perspective, when it comes to putting that into place, it made sense for my role type to change. And it's something that we'd been talking about for a number of years, to be transparent, but it needed certain things to come into play in terms of my development and having my own plan for the business. So I really needed to come up with something that I'm comfortable to put my name to and say, no, this is my plan. This is how I want to grow the business, but this is what I want to do with what we have already. And this is how I want to improve that side of things. And this is where we want to go over the next year and 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And Matt had to agree with that, obviously, and still sits in a sort of more strategic, operational, overarching view of the business, and quite heavily on our marketing side. And then I can quite independently day to day run all of the other pieces with the team, obviously working with yourself and with Shannon around hiring and expansion, and still running an active recruiting desk. So
you're still, and that's, you know, it's quite a remarkable feat when you describe all of those things. It's multiple hats, isn't it? So how have you prepared yourself for that, I guess, that growth in you? Has there been any external leadership coaching? Is it something that you've already kind of prepared yourself for, or are you doing it as you're going along?
So we wanted to make sure that a lot of that groundwork was done before the change happened, because I think it's quite tough to make the change and then realize that the shortfalls, you know, you sort of trying to catch your tail somewhat. And because it's a conversation that we'd been having for a while, I've done some external leadership training and had some time to put those things into place, and then ask for some more support in the areas that, you know, don't come that naturally to me. I was never a particularly natural delegator at all. If somebody asked me to,
all of us.
yeah, it is very much I could show you how to do that and explain it, but I can do it in 10 seconds, so I'll just do that, would fall into that trap a lot. So needed to really train some of those habits out of myself. And then I suppose some of the other pieces really has been a lot of confidence, and I'm sure that you get that with a lot of guests that you ask, you know, where they've had to develop to step into leadership. And I think certainly coming as a younger leader than most in recruitment at this level, it's tough to have the confidence in your plan, but then your day-to-day activity with what you're doing. And it does feel a little bit imposter syndrome sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's tough. I think when it comes to the sort of multitasking and wearing multiple hats, recruitment's a role that sets you up really well for that. And I would like to think that I've got the, I suppose, empathetic and sales approach enough to do that well. I don't think I sort of cut my nose off when it comes to managing the team for my own desk. I'm probably more minded to be the other way around, which I think is important. When it comes to recruitment leadership, it's tough because it does generally mean you sacrifice your own desk for the team, but that's the best thing for the business. And that's the piece that I really enjoy. So it's been a slow process with some of those areas, because I never wanted to do the team injustice in not leading it well. So that's been the main priority for me, has always been the team.
It's really refreshing because I've often posted, and I know I've spoken to other Rec to Recs over the years around the hardest job being that billing leader role and moving into that, and then moving into what I think should always be when you're whether you're a founder or whether you're moving into a managing director role where you're leading a business, you still have you've got your finger on the pulse, you know exactly what's happening because you're still running a commercial enterprise, you're still speaking to people, you're still running a desk. And I think imposter syndrome is absolutely universally common. I think that's a trait that, and it's I guess a bit of a cliche almost that we're expecting someone to say that, but it's true. And that's because it's growth. You're not in a comfort zone. It would probably be easy for you to, if you and Matthew to have stayed what you were doing, it was working well. You were almost like a duo doing it together. But actually, what from that growth comes, right, well, I've got to get up to this bit now. And so, but I love the fact that you prepared yourself before you went there. And actually, I was almost like chuckling to myself thinking, my brain went there here. All the founders that I know, or I've either helped launch or I've had on the show, how many of them were top billers who then got to the point, which I thought, right, screw you, I'm going to go and set up on my own, and have then grown and scaled their own businesses, but never did the leadership training, the coaching.
Yeah.
Actually, I bet it's a really high proportion that don't, because you're a victim
Exactly.
of your own success.
Yeah, I think I'm quite a cautious person with those sorts of things as well. So when the conversation first came up around leadership here, a big part of my fear around it was not doing it well, and I didn't want to learn from my mistakes.
No.
And develop in that way. I've seen what impact sort of people taking that step before they're ready can have on the team. So I know you can never be perfect all the time, and first time certainly not, but I did want to at least iron out the bad habits that I knew about, and hopefully some that I didn't before taking that jump. So
right, it's the right thing to do, and it's clearly why you've, and I know this is a nice segue to the next thing we're going to talk around culture, but I think it's the right way to do it. And I think you've clearly had experiences in the past yourself where you've just alluded to it, where you didn't want that to be the case. You don't want to, it's all like, we'll just see how it goes. Well, you're messing with people's careers if you're screwing it up, right?
yeah, absolutely. And it's tough to come back from, for the person that makes the move, and it's hard to then say, actually, this isn't what I want to do. I want to go back. But in the meantime, I've half my desk and I'm not billing as much, and now you've got to rebuild it as well. So
oh God, absolutely, that would be soul destroying, I imagine. So yes, I mentioned that it's a nice segue into culture. So in terms of the culture that you have at Get Recruited, I know this from my day job in terms of that sort of flexibility, but also the fact that you are, I think, quite unique because you are creating verticals, but where it's quite open as well. You're not like dismissing revenue streams.
no.
So what's the reason that you've decided to do that, unlike probably most of the people that I've had on the podcast in the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think for us, one of our biggest areas as a business, for example, is our insurance recruitment team. We didn't do that, 5 years ago. That wasn't an area that Get Recruited had ever done. And that was an opportune hire that's led to us building a division out of that. And something that we learned from that was that we had been closed off to that type of hire in the past. And ultimately, I've mentioned it to you several times, but the biggest part of my strategy and the most important thing for me is the people and getting that right. So if somebody fits from a cultural perspective and there's some opportunity for revenue, but their sector doesn't quite fit, I'd rather have that conversation than take somebody who's not quite aligned with the team and the culture, but does the sector that we already do.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you totally. I really do. So in terms of your plans for the foreseeable, because the market, we spoke off camera, and obviously we've spoken on a number of occasions, not least around your marathon success, the Manchester Marathon success. What are your plans to navigate what looks to be, will still be a very tricky market for the next 6 months at least?
Yeah, so we've always been quite adaptable, and I suppose like to be on the front foot of those sorts of things. So I think we've spoken about some tools that we've implemented over the last few weeks to support the team around client acquisition while we're in this sort of more challenging period. We are 2 or 3 weeks into that and seeing some real success. So I would like to think that'll hopefully bridge some of that gap. We talk about it all the time. We're open about the challenges that every team member are facing. I don't want anybody to be sat at the desk thinking, God, this is really hard and it's only hard for me. We're quite open about what's working, what's not working, and just sometimes that, yes, it's really tough, but if we don't push against that toughness, we don't make the money, and there still is money out there. So
there's opportunity, like you say.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think, maybe that comes from your imposter syndrome, but the fact that you share vulnerability, you're open and honest. And I think there is an advantage of being a smaller business because you're visible. They can literally hear you and see you, and it's like, oh shit, my market's just been affected by Trump, whatever he's decided to do today, for example. But I think actually there's a lot we can all learn from that from that you see opportunity, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's important to be clear about things as well. I think you can turn a blind eye and try and ignore the impacts of the current economic status, but it doesn't change it. I think if you're able to address it, accept it, and deal with it. So no, I'm not going to say just make more calls, do more activity. Let's look at how can we do things maybe slightly differently to get a better result, because a better result is still an option, rather than just bash your head against a brick wall or get deflated because you think you're the only person struggling with it. Get Recruited's been through a recession, so we know that we're able to still make money in those times, and we're not even in that at the moment. So it's always having that adaptability that really helps, and that's why I love small business and the ability to make those changes quickly and to support the team in making those changes quickly.
And also that's why it's good to have that blend of experience, because if you were a founder now and you hadn't worked through 2008, 2009, and you hadn't worked through, running a business through that sort of recession where no one talked about it, no one knew anything, and we didn't know how long it was going to last. But you've got that wisdom and you've got that experience. And I think that is such a nice way to kind of do a full circle of this interview, that we need to hire more, diverse people and think about, openly communicating and sharing that information between us. And that's where, communities help. That's where, podcasts help. I think I'd like to think anyway that, we are all on the same storm right now. That's the reality. We're just all in different boats, right? Because, you're in a smaller boat, we're in a smaller boat. We can get out the storm quicker. You're driving that massive big cruise ship. Jesus, we know what happened to the Titanic, right? There ends my analogy, although I think that has been a recent LinkedIn post. Chloe, this was your first podcast, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
How has it been?
Enjoyed it. Thank you. No, you've kept me in very safe hands, so thank you.
And if you're an avid listener of the Recruited Recruitment podcast, you know that I love taking somebody on their first podcast journey. So if you're listening as a founder and you've got a story that you'd like to share with our audience, I am taking bookings for season 7. Can't believe I'm saying that. So get in touch. It's hopefully as comfortable as this looks. It's just us chatting. We talk about things that you hopefully are passionate about. And it's a great way to showcase your business, showcase your career, potentially launch something new if you, doing an event or something like that. But apart from anything, it's just a really nice way for other human beings to know that we're all here for each other. So any more marathons coming up, Chloe? Any more marathons?
No, I'm on a ban at the minute. I'm doing the Manchester half at the end of May. I've entered the ballot for London.
Have you?
If I get a place, it's meant to be. If not, then I'll have the year off.
Oh my God, if you get London. So by the time this goes out, you'll have done the half marathon, which the way you go, you'll probably do it in about 5 minutes.
I'm playing football straight after it. So.
Oh my God, bless you. But London, if you get that, wow, Team Keel come and cheer you on. That'll be amazing.
No, I would really like to do a major next year, so fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, let's manifest it to the universe. Thank you so much for joining me on the Recruitment podcast. Thank you.